school of Jesus. It's almost over. 3.5 years earlier, and their college system was different than ours. Our college system, and for those of you who have had college students, we've got educators here who have sent their daughter off to be an educator. So you send your kids off to college, what do? They apply to the college. The college says, yes, we'll take it. No, you don't have the grades or whatever, right? In Jesus' day, it was different. The rabbi would honor you by saying, you know, I've been watching you. I think you're going to be a good student. I want to teach you everything I know. Come, follow me and be my disciple. And that's what Jesus did with these 12 men. Boys. Now it's 3.5 years later, and what's happening is the final exam. You got it? This is the final exam. It's the school of Jesus. And here's what happened with these guys. Got it? Up until this moment, they were fans of Jesus. And you know how a fan works. You know, I am proud of my football team. The Vols are the greatest team in the history of man until they stink, right? And then all of a sudden that big orange T comes off the car, right? That's a fan. That's a fan. And Peter had that great big J on his car right up until people started to question, hey, weren't you one of Jesus' followers? No, I didn't know him. That J comes off the car. That's a fan. But they went from fan to followers, and followers do some pretty enormous things. The followers of Jesus, these guys all went to their death except for John, for nothing more than promoting the number one message, and that was, Jesus is the only answer for humanity. I mean, you know, as I'm trying to think of illustrations to help people, I thought about, tell again the story of Delbert Dawes, who I think is a Tennessee boy too, and maybe Kentucky Wildcats, I don't know, who climbed an escarpment, what, like 70 times? Taking wounded soldiers off of the Plateau in World War II. And he himself was a pacifist, didn't carry a gun, but each time he's crawling up there at danger, at risk, serving out of nothing more than the love of Jesus Christ, pulling people off of that escarpment. Or Corrie ten Boom. I thought about Corrie ten Boom. Maybe tell her story. This woman who was, this Jewish woman who became a Christian, by the way. No, I'm sorry, it's the other way around. Her family was hiding Jews. And so here's Corrie ten Boom. And she's locked up. She's sent to a concentration camp along with her sister. And they're devout Christians. Her sister dies in Ravensbrück. Years later, she's preaching. She's sharing at a church in Berlin. And a guy comes up. She recognized him. He's one of those German guards that guarded her and her sister in the showers as they're stripped naked. And he leered at them. And he comes up and he says, I'm a Christian now. Would you forgive me? Man, that's phenomenal. She said she couldn't even get her arm up. And then when it went up and she grabbed his hand, it was like electricity went through her arm. And they had a fellowship moment. That's a follower, that's not a fan. But the best story actually was one I read way back in 1983. I had to go and find it again. And it's a woman who gets a phone call from her mom. The woman's brother and wife, her sister, and their 2 kids were killed in a car wreck. They're devastated. They're blown away. They go into shock like you wouldn't believe. And typically, like every one of us who's been in that situation, people were saying, let me know what I can do. Let me know what I can do. But there happened to be a Jesus follower, not a Jesus fan. There happened to be a Jesus follower next door who came over and says, give me all your shoes. Give me the shoes you're going to wear to the funeral. Give me the shoes, all your shoes, just give them to me. Well, what are you going to do? I'm going to polish them. So he gets down on his knees in her laundry room and selflessly, simply, not only polishes their shoes, he cleans them. When she starts to pack up finally and get everything in the pack, she notices he even scraped and cleaned the soles so they were ready to go right into the suitcases with the clothes. She said when she looked at him, she saw Jesus on his knees washing his disciples' feet. You want to know what graduation from Jesus School looks like? You look like Jesus. And you serve 100% out of love. People don't have to agree with you, and you don't have to agree with them on things like COVID. Our first service is for no other reason than to demonstrate, not to say to people, oh, we love you, but by the way, we don't love you enough to wear a mask, or we don't love you enough to sterilize, or we don't love you enough. Yeah, we love you, but we've got our limits. Because what did I say earlier? I think if Jesus was here, he'd probably be wearing a mask. If Jesus was here, he'd probably be on his knees, and he'd be washing your feet and your hands, and he'd give you that little sterilizer hug. So what's the rest of the story? Here's the big burden. Jesus lays on us the biggest burden we can possibly have. You call me teacher, verse 13, and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, well, guess what, guys? You also should wash one another's feet. Jesus, why'd you do this? You gave us a caught lesson and not a taught lesson. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. Very truly I tell you, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sent him. Now that you know these things, you will be blessed if you do them. I like what Mark Moore says in his book. I put this quote up on the screen. If you want greatness in Jesus' realm, it will be by serving more, not acquiring higher status in seats of honor. So what if? What if the earth was populated with a group of people who were followers of Jesus and not fans? What if the measure of their love was not, oh, by the way, serve me, but what if the measure of their love was, let me serve you? What if, when you didn't know what was going on, you came back into your church building and you found it transformed? Not just because of COVID, but for the future. You do realize that one of the reasons for this dark background is not pretty. I mean, it is pretty. But because we are big on simulcasting now, that pops. Take a look at churches that have it and those that don't have it, and it's a dramatic difference between churches that have white-out washed backgrounds and those who have the charcoal gray is a big kick right now. 2 screens, everything else. All without your knowledge. See, it's never the lesson necessarily that comes out of the lips. It's the lesson in the actions. So what if there were followers and not fans of Jesus? What if we took this Tao lesson and it became a real lesson? Is there anyone in here, this is communion. We're going to do it differently this morning. You can raise your hand, and I suggest you don't. How many deserve this? How many earned it? How many deserve that the Son of God would die on the cross in agony so that you might have eternity with God? Here's the funny thing. That you would have all the privileges of the Son of God. But he gave us a big burden, didn't he? And he says, but by the way, how do I know you're one of mine? You don't ask for those privileges. You do what I did. And you serve. So here's the test today. Jesus gave a test to his disciples. Here's your test. What do you do? Here's your towel. Here's the cup and the bread. It's time for us to serve. And one of the best ways you can show that you serve, I've got 2 elders in the building right now. This is a fellow elder. I work side by side with this man in a